I was recently invited to address the European Piano Teachers Association here in London. After all, if one is buying a piano, it's good to know how that instrument has been made. My talk started with a description of some of the piano factories around the world. I talked about tone quality from a piano. I talked about the moving parts within the instrument. And I concluded by sharing some thoughts about choosing the right piano. This is a shortened version of the presentation. We've been making pianos in Europe for 300 years. In the 1880s, the Japanese, experts in automated production, also started producing pianos. And nowadays, the two large Japanese manufacturers produce between them nearly 200,000 pianos per year. The largest piano factory in the world, however, is in China, and that produces about 130,000 pianos per year. There's a handful of manufacturers with the BVK accreditation made in Germany, and Peregrine's Pianos is proud to be the London exclusive dealer for two of these, that's Schimmel and August Forster. Schimmel is the largest volume producer in Germany, and from their modern purpose-built factory in Braunschweig, Western Germany, they produce about 3,000 pianos per year. It is Germany's most highly awarded piano. August Forster in Eastern Germany, near Dresden, is one of the oldest piano manufacturers in the world, and they make just about 300 pianos a year. 80% of the pianos sold in the world nowadays are sold in China. In general terms, one can say that an Asian production line is going to be automated, it's going to be a linear production line, and they're going to be producing a piano within a matter of weeks. Whereas the German production line is going to be much more traditional manufacture, it's going to be a series of workstations, and it could take them a year to build a piano. So the strings on a piano run from the hitch pin over the bridge pin to the tuning pin. The speaking length of the string is this distance here, and when we strike a piano string it vibrates in lots of different waveforms so that we get a fundamental, frequency and the harmonics. It's very important a piano wire is perfectly even throughout its length and very smooth. When a piano string vibrates, the air particles don't press on it sufficiently because it's got a very small cross-section. This means that the string will carry on singing for a long time, which is to our benefit. But by the same token, it doesn't make enough noise for us to be able to hear it. What happens in a piano is that the vibrations from the string are transferred from the string through the bridge down onto the soundboard. The bridge is key. It forces down all those vibrations from the strings onto the soundboard. The soundboard looks quite flat. In fact, it comes upwards with what we call a crown, the length of it. That's because the soundboard needs tension. Just look at this a moment. A soundboard that's perfectly flat doesn't resonate much. It's not until we put pressure into it that it starts transmitting energy. And it's this curve that is key to soundboard manufacture. The Germans are very proud of the way they produce their soundboards, and it takes a long time to do it. The soundboard is put into a dry environment for 3 to 4 months, and the ribs, which run underneath the soundboard and at 90 degrees to the grain, the ribs are put into a very moist environment. They leave them there for 3 to 4 months, then they bring together, glue the ribs onto the soundboard. Then they're left for another 3 to 4 months. And during this time, the moisture transfers from the ribs onto the soundboard and forces the soundboard up. It's like a cake rising. Of course, if you're mass producing pianos, you don't have time for all of that. An easier version, but not so satisfactory from the pianist's point of view, is to make the ribs already curved this way and then to force the soundboard onto it. Obviously you can do that without waiting around at all. And on an entry-level piano, the soundboard is probably not going to be solid timber at all. It'll be laminated wood, glued at different angles and then forced onto the ribs. I mean, one can say that that type of soundboard is robust. It's not going to crack, but it's not going to give the resonances that a musician might be looking for. The other important part that we're looking at here is the frame. The frame was developed in the 19th century, and August Forster patented his design in 1866. The frame is made of cast iron and must take the pressure of all the string tension, which in a piano like this can be a massive 30 tons. So this frame is made in Frankfurt, and it's made in the traditional cold casting method, whereby a wooden template is forced into a sand bed, and then the molten iron ore is poured into that. It's left to cool naturally, and when it's pulled out, it's obviously pitted with all the sand. So this has to all be rubbed down, smoothed and painted several times, and that takes 3 days hard labour. It's all done by hand. There's a lot of wood used in a piano. This is brought from foresters around Germany, and when it arrives in the piano factory, it's put into a steam room and then transferred directly to the wood store. And the wood has to be left in the wood store for like 2 to 5 years before it can be used for any useful purpose. Since the early 1400s, we've had clavichords, harpsichords, spinets, virginals, and out of these, the clavichord was the only instrument where the strings were actually struck rather than plucked. It was another 300 years before Cristofori invented what we call the escapement action, and thereby invented the piano. Now, we could strike the string, the hammer would hit the string and straight away bounce away, allowing the string to vibrate. This is a modern piano action, which is not far similar to what Cristofori first was building all those years ago. We have the key, the hammer on the hammer shank. Here represents the string, and here is the damper. The roller sits on the jack here, and as we move the key down, the jack is pulled away by the set-off screw here, so that the jack comes away from the roller, and the last part of movement here to the string is called free motion. Now, the Asian manufacturers make their own piano actions, and they've experimented with all sorts of plastics and carbon fibre materials. The German manufacturers nearly exclusively go to Renner, who have got factories in Stuttgart and in Leipzig. In every action there are 8,800 component parts. That's for the 88 notes. An important part of any piano action is the hammer. The hammer felt is key to the tone quality. And a very hard hammer will give you a very clear diction, a very clear articulation, and a softer hammer will give you warmth. In summary, one could say that if a piano wasn't built to play Chopin, one can't play Chopin on it. The Chinese are producing vast numbers of pianos at very competitive prices, and if you simply wanted a piano for occasional recreational use, that might fit the bill. The Japanese pianos are affordable. Do bear in mind, though, that Japanese tend to change their pianos as well as their cars every few years. It is true that some Japanese manufacturers have some part of their production is Western style production, but the Germans have steered well clear of all conveyor belt technology, and a German piano will always cost you that bit more. When you're choosing a piano, don't be tempted to be fixed at a certain price point. One's musical aspirations are far more important. We would always work with customers, perhaps on rental options or leasing options or structured purchase options, to make sure the customer gets the instrument that they need. When you buy a piano from us, you get a full 5-year guarantee and the assurance that our technicians will give you the full aftercare service. We want you to be happy and pleased with your purchase.